Welcome on behalf of Chef Network and Musgrave Marketplace to our webinar this afternoon. My name is Ruth Hegarty and I am delighted to host this webinar on taking on takeaway, where we are going to explore some of the takeaway, cook at home and retail models that have been pioneered by restaurants over the past 2 months since the COVID-19 crisis struck. This is our first time doing a webinar, so hopefully everything will run smoothly. Thank you for your patience while we all figure out what we're doing. We're all over the country, and I'm in Galway, and there is a little bit of a lag with my camera, unfortunately. I think the rest of the participants have better connections than I do, so you shouldn't have any issues seeing and hearing from them. And you won't be seeing too much of me once they start talking. So the running time for our webinar today is an hour. We're going to hear from 4 businesses who've rolled out different models, and we'll discuss also some of the practical considerations for doing takeaway. We will have a short Q&A section for about 15 minutes for about the last 15 minutes. You can enter your questions in the Q&A panel that you'll see on the right-hand side of your screen. Just to let you know that when you send a question, you won't see it published immediately, so don't resubmit it. It will appear eventually once it gets published by the moderator, assuming it's not a duplicate of a question that we've already received. You will see that there's a thumbs up beside the questions. If you see the question that you want answered, please just upvote it by giving it a thumbs up rather than resubmitting the same question. And that will allow us just to select the most voted for questions at the end, because we'll only have time for a few. So also, just to let you know, we are recording the session, so anyone who has pre-registered with us will get a link to the recording afterwards. So if you do have connectivity issues or you get cut off, you know that the recording will come through to you afterwards. So we've had a huge response to the webinar. We know that this has been a really tough time for the industry, and there's really tough times ahead. We wanted to do something that would be of some practical value, so we hope this will be useful to people. We're really grateful to the businesses who are taking part for sharing their experiences with the rest of the industry. I know there's going to be lots of little nuggets of wisdom that everyone will be able to take away and hopefully adapt to put them into use themselves as they look at taking on takeaway models and new models for their industry. Unfortunately, the reality is that we're going to see some casualties from this crisis, but we all know that this industry is highly resourceful, highly resilient, and I know that we're also going to see lots of innovation and creativity, and hopefully today's discussion can help inspire some of that. So I'm going to introduce the panel. You won't see them all straight away, but I'll let you know who we have on the line. We're joined from Barna in Galway by Fergus O'Halloran, who's the Managing Director of the 12 Hotel. Then we're going to rural County Sligo, where we're joined by Johnny Conlon, who is the co-proprietor of Pudding Row. Then we're going to go over to Dublin to talk to Grania O'Keefe, who is the culinary director in Bujo and also head chef in Clonbrazil House, although today we'll be focusing on talking to her about Bujo. And we're going to talk to Kevin Arundel, who is the chef proprietor of the Chop House in Dublin. And then we're going to speak also with Clement Pavy, who is the head development chef for Musgrave Marketplace, and he's been working with lots of their clients who've been looking at taking on takeaway and doing new kind of models of doing business. So we're going to go first to Fergus O'Halloran in the 12 Hotel. And Fergus, I know that you guys really were quite quick off the blocks in terms of making the decision to reopen and to start doing takeaway. So you might take us through kind of how that evolved, the model that you're doing, and how it all works.
Yeah, well, thanks, Ruth. Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a good day. Yeah, it seems like a long time ago now, but I guess prior to prior to March 17th, if we were to put Paddy's Day down as kind of the milestone, it was the weekend really prior to that we saw things changing, both in social media and just in terms of the whole feeling within the hotel, guest sentiment. And we realized there was a problem imminent. So we started to consider closing the restaurants, but there was no way that I would ever consider closing down the operation entirely. I felt that, you know, to close down would mean we would be silent. There'd be no more 12 until things changed. And that just was not something I could consider. So, you know, I guess we dug deep in the sense of we had to decide, okay, we have to get everything down to rock bottom, in the essence of everything closing. And from that point, once I could visualize it, it was creating something new. So over the course of the 3 days coming up, one day prior, St. Patrick's Day, the day after, that plan went into place. You know, the weekend before that, I had 90 team members on our books, and it was 3 days of speaking to everybody and telling them that things were going to change and that they were put on notice. So very, very tough. At the same time, you know, the mind is torn between having to do that and having to be creative and say, okay, what's the new model going to be? I'm very fortunate, got a very strong creative team that I've worked with for many years, and we put our heads together and said, look, we can get through this. We had done similar things before, like our Christmas takeout dinner, when in essence the whole hotel is closed, but we look after 120 guests with takeout dinners on Christmas Eve. And we said, okay, that's our starting point, and we need to build on that. We had a successful takeout and pizza dozzina for people to walk into our pizza shop and have a pizza to go. So we said, okay, well, we're doing that already. So really it was getting another block, building onto what we had and saying, okay, let's do takeout. We had done a lot of volume before for the likes of the Arts Festival in Galway. We would do all the catering at the big top. So we were used to volume. We were used to kind of knowing what the guests would want, what sells, how quickly we could produce it, and how well it would travel. That was key. So we started off with a somewhat condensed menu. We offered our takeout dinners to go. We were selling those 3-course box lunches with a pre-order system for Mother's Day, which was the weekend following. The Friday night after St. Patrick's, essentially, we had closed the restaurants. We just said that, look, firstly, the business isn't there. It wasn't safe for my staff. It wasn't safe for the guests. So we made the decision to close, but the takeout would have to work. If the takeout would work, potentially at that point I was counting 10 jobs saved. To me, that was extremely important, that I would protect at least that number of jobs, all of which are my core management team, and that I'd be able to support the community in the sense of being able to offer something to our guests in the region, to support the frontline workers. So that was part of the business model, that we'd have to give something back. So we jumped on the Feed the Heroes straight away by launching free pizzas and frittatas for frontline workers, which is still heavily uptaken to today, and it'll continue while this goes on.
And Fergus, sorry to interrupt you. When we were speaking in advance, I was quite fascinated at the fact that you were, first of all, you're doing this every day of the week, from 1 o'clock in the day, and it's in terms of how you order and everything, it runs quite like a traditional takeaway in a sense, but of course the process by which you collect it and everything is quite different. So can you take us through that customer experience, how it works, how people order, how they collect, and how you managed all of that from a logistical point of view, and the social distancing and everything?
Yeah, I'll take you back to, I guess, what we learned. So first night, the Friday night after St. Patrick's, that night effectively restaurants were still allowed to open. We had closed our restaurants, but we had still retained Pizza Dozzina, the shop, as open. So as far as our regular guests were concerned, they were still coming into Pizza di Zena to order their pizza. We had launched a phone line, and it was through the phone line that people were now able to order their takeout menu. So on that night, we were dealing with people walking into the pizza shop, and we were dealing with orders coming in the phone line. So essentially we had two separate kitchens. It was very hard to coordinate, and it was extremely busy. We couldn't get over how much we had sold on takeout on our first weekend of operation. So we said, okay, we have something here now. Now we have to correct ourselves. So after that night, we sat down in service and said, look, we split the kitchens, which was wrong. We've always operated with two kitchens serving the restaurant in a coordinated manner. So that's how we have to get to with our online phone line ordering system. So we had already been doing it for many years. So we just turned things around and said there can only be one channel into ordering, and that would be the phone at this point in time. So we had to get onto our tech suppliers. We had to cut off the voicemail. We had to make sure that there was only one number that people could ring on. If the phone rang out, it rang out. Our goal was to make sure to catch every call coming in.
So Fergus, sorry, because we only have another minute or so. The customer's phone, they give their order, and you give them an estimate of when the collection will be ready, and then you're operating a drive-through for collection.
Let me take you through it, and I'll try to take it as coherently as I can. There's a lot of strategy involved. So essentially, the way to the marketplace is through our phone line. We promoted that on Facebook, social media. Word of mouth got out. One phone line to ring in. Yes, we said that we would open from 1 o'clock to 10 o'clock every night. Essentially, the goal was to have 10 full-time members on full-time hours with their days off. So that was the dream, and it worked. We said our hours of operation would be from 1 till 10. Guests would call in. We would give them a pickup number. So that's essentially, think of it as, this is table 12, this is table 13. So the same way as a restaurant operates. So we would estimate a time. Normally our pickup time would be 20 minutes. In peak times, we'd be quoting an hour and a half. The guests would arrive through the drive-through. It's all signposted. We basically took over the car park because it's a round circle. We were able to create the drive-through where a guest can come in one side and drive out the other side. We wanted it to be as safe as possible, both for our guests and for our staff, so we went completely contactless, and that's what we promoted right from the start, in the sense of that you are safe. You will be giving an order number. When you arrive at our facility, you will ring us to say you're outside. We will place your order in your car. Just open your boot door. So completely contactless. Payment, everything was taken over the phone prior to the guest arriving, and it worked.
Sorry, I'll jump in there. So yeah, thank you for that, Fergus. That's and I suppose it's great that you guys have the space as well for people to circulate, and I think that's a really interesting model for hotels or for anyone who has that space. And I know there's a couple of places who have that model going of dropping to the boot of people's cars.
Yeah, but even still, Ruth, I've received many calls over the last few weeks as to how we've done this and what advice can be given. And it's certainly possible for any restaurant to do curbside. If we had not got the space, we would have done curbside. There's no doubt about it. You know, every restaurant needs to look at what it is that they have, choose one thing that they're really good at, know what it is that they're good at, and what it is that people want. And even if it was just one burger that was going out, but it was the best burger in the region, there is a demand for that, and you can do it. So yes, we're fortunate we have space, but had we not, we'd be offering a somewhat different model, but we would still be doing it.
Brilliant. Thanks a million, Fergus. So we're going to go over now, and we'll be back to Fergus later. We're going to go to Johnny Conlon in Pudding Row in Sligo, and quite a rural location that you guys are in, Johnny, and a very different business to the hotel that Fergus is running. So maybe if you can give us very briefly the background to who Pudding Row are, or what Pudding Row is, and what you guys have, the direction you guys decided to take.
Yeah, well, Pudding Row is my wife Dervla and myself and our team. and we do like breakfast, brunch, lunch, all kind of based around fresh baked bread and bagels and cakes, and we make all our own breads and things in-house. So our menu is heavily based around that, things like French toast and scrambled eggs on toast and all that sort of stuff. And we're quite rural, so we have a lot of summer trade, and our kind of summer season traditionally starts off around St. Patrick's Day. We kind of celebrate St. Patrick's Day as in we've survived another winter and we're ready to go again. And we were gearing up this year. We had ordered in extra everything. We had started ramping up production of everything, and then by the Sunday before St. Patrick's Day, it was obvious that it just wasn't really going to work. So we decided to close, and we thought we'd just close and wait it out. At that point, nobody knew how long this was going to go on. Was it going to be 3 weeks, 2 months? It was just kind of all up in the air. So we thought we'd just take a break. But the next day, Dervla decided that she wanted to do some baking. We had a lot of ingredients that we could use up and try and clear out some of that sort of stuff. So we decided we'd do 1 day of baking every week for local collections for breads and cakes and things. And I quickly threw together a website to handle all the orders and take payments and organize collection times and things like that. So we did that. We did the first day. That was very well received. And then we decided we'd try 2 days, and then that quickly turned into 3 days. And it's been popular. And we started then, after about 2 weeks, we saw these boxes that On Post were doing, like a prepaid post box. So we got one of them and we gathered up all our stuff and saw what could we fit in this and what would survive in the post. And we created what we call a comfort kit. So there's bagels and cake, jam, chutney, granola, loose tea, all these nice things in it. And we put them up on the website to see how that would go. Thought maybe we might sell 5 or 10 of them. But it's really taken off, and we're sending out about 60 or 70 a week at this point.
That's great, Johnny.
Kept us busy, yeah.
And as you said, like you're sending those all over the country, and you've got a small cafe in rural Sligo. So before this, your market would have been the people who walked in the door of the cafe on any given day, but now you're actually selling your products all over.
All over, country. Yeah, and
how did you get the word out?
A lot of people are sending them as gifts to friends who they might have come here last summer, or sometimes some people come here every summer, and they obviously can't meet their friends this year, so they're sending them as gifts to them, or they're sending them to family members that are cocooning. So the reach, we have a national reach now, where we had a very kind of narrow catchment area, kind of Sligo, Mayo, and tourists. Like we're on the Wild Atlantic Way, so we would get a lot of tourists passing through during the summer. But yeah, we're sending them. I think we've covered each county by now.
Wow. And what I was quite interested in when you were talking is like your premises is very small. You've had to adopt a system where for the local collections, you know, people can come and pick up, and they're given specific time slots. And I'm just wondering how you found the job of communicating with your customers, trying to keep, you know, I suppose, be customer service oriented, but also be very definite about what the rules of engagement are.
Well, it was definitely easier at the start because everybody was taking this very seriously, and they were just kind of happy to be able to get anything of their usual kind of weekly shops. So people would kind of stick to the times, and it was all fairly easy. But as it's gone on, people have kind of become a bit more relaxed, and you know, we just kind of have to really drill home the message to people that, you know, this problem hasn't gone away. We have to keep taking it seriously, and we have to follow these rules. We have to be strict because of the rules that we have to follow. You know, we're all just trying to follow it and get through it. And
how have you communicated that with your customers?
Well, on the website we have a kind of explainer of how it all works, and then the night before every collection day I send out an email to people with their collection time and with very clear instructions on it of how it works. But it's fairly simple. We have a door down on the street level that's closed. I have the orders all ready to go at the door, and when someone comes in, I get their name, put their order on a table right inside the door, and they just grab it and they're gone, and that's it. It's fairly foolproof.
Brilliant. And what I know you said you're very much focused on your baked goods and all your kind of, I suppose, a lot of the homemade goodies that you do yourself. What have you found has been the most popular and people have been seeking?
Bagels, definitely the homemade bagels. I think we've made thousands of them at this stage since the lockdown. Yeah, we can't make enough bagels.
If you never see another bagel again in your
Well, I
life.
don't mind. I get the leftovers, so it's okay.
Good stuff. Okay, thanks a million. We'll come back to you in a while as well, Johnny. And we're going to go and talk to Grania O'Keefe now, who's sitting in Bujo in Dublin. Hi, Grania. So again, a very different business and a very different model that you kind of rolled out since the crisis. And I was quite interested in, first of all, how quickly you guys kind of reacted and adapted to the situation, and what you did first to kind of keep things going after you made the decision to kind of not have people coming into the restaurant anymore, and then how you kind of moved that on to doing the home burger kits. So maybe just kind of briefly take us through how you started out and where you went with it.
So initially, as soon as we closed, we set up a permanent WhatsApp call on the outside of the restaurant. So it was mounted to the window, and then the guests would come up, they would order through WhatsApp. So they didn't have to touch the phone, and then the other phone was facing the staff members at the till, who took the orders, took the payments by card, by putting in the numbers. So there was zero contact whatsoever. And that worked. It worked well, but it wasn't something that we could keep doing, and it wasn't something that we wanted to keep doing, because we needed to figure out a plan long term. And so we decided to put our energy into developing the Bujo meal kit, which is actually something that originally, when we were opening 3 years ago, we already had in mind, that it would at some point be something that would be available to buy in Bujo. So we just pushed that forward and spent a couple of weeks developing it alongside the EHO, because we obviously, anything that you're giving outside of your premises needs to be, go through the regulations. And we waited until we got the microbial test to see the shelf life and products, and then also with the EHO to get their approval, and then we started doing deliveries of the meal kits. So at this point, the restaurant was closed completely. We weren't doing any takeaway, no click and collect. The only thing that was available to guests was the meal kit, and that was delivered. At the start, actually, by myself, and it was only in Dublin 2 and Dublin 4, and because we wanted to provide, to the community. And then we rolled that out to the rest of Dublin, and then to areas just outside of Dublin. And we got a delivery partner, next day delivery, and obviously we had to take our time with that, because you have to get refrigerated vans. You need to look into all the EHO restrictions and approvals that you need to do that as well. And then we moved on again. So we kept doing the meal kits, but we reduced them to just 1 day a week. And the reason being is that we wanted to focus completely on reopening Bujo, but only for click and collect. So the only way that you can order from Bujo is online, and the reason for this is for the ease of the guest. So it's as safe as possible for them, for our staff, and just a better experience. It's obviously not ideal to not be able to have people in the restaurants, but we're aware that we probably won't be able to for a long time. So we built around this. We're currently building a hatch. If you go onto the Bujo Instagram, you can see that we're already working on doing a hatch that it's literally going to be click and collect only from initially Thursday to Sunday. And the only way that you can order food is online through our website. And then the only way that you can collect your food is by coming to Bujo at your allocated time. This is to reduce queues. It's to reduce any uncertainty with guests of how you order, how you get your food. And it's also for the safety and the benefit of our team and the guests as well. And so we've just completely got rid of any in-store purchases. To do this, it's a lot of work. We're really fortunate to have an amazing team. Our restaurant manager has already done up a 20-page document, which is guidelines for our staff, for our suppliers, and basically, what happens from when we open the door in the day until when we close the door. And to do that, you need to go through every thought and every process. So there's no point in going to these lengths of refurbing the restaurant and changing our model if you have a weak link. So that's why we needed to cover, you know, from the guests, from the team, and then also from the supplier side. And the amount of work that has had to go into this is phenomenal. But everyone, you know, is really on board. And there was also doing the meal kits, you know, we were doing a lot of them at one point when the restaurant was closed, like a lot. And that was the owners of the restaurant, me, the managers, and we were building boxes. Like we were literally putting together cardboard boxes, which, you know, it's not something that you ever thought you would be doing, but everyone was really positive about it. We all realized that we had the same goals, and it was really important to keep, you know, to keep ourselves going and to keep the staff in jobs. And that was the goal. The goal was to keep the team on, keep providing a service to the community, and then also, you know, keeping our brand alive and to move forward as well and keep moving forward.
In terms of keeping the brand alive, Bronnie, I was quite interested in, like, I mean, when you guys rolled out the kits, they looked really slick. They really were like, you know, the Bojo look. And I'm just wondering, you know, how you guys went through the process of kind of keeping your customer experience and your brand identity, and also you know, looking at the packaging side and everything, because I know you guys are part of the Sustainable Restaurant Association. You have your 3-star rating there, so I know sustainability is a huge part of what you do as well. So I'm just wondering how you did it all so quickly as well.
We work with a brand design team who we've worked with since the beginning, and also we're 3-star members of the Sustainable Restaurant Association, and I curated the policy for that pre-opening. So although Bojo has been open just under 3 years, I've actually been working for them for 5 years. And 2 years of that was getting things like our sustainability policy done up, but getting our rating from the SRA, and the 3-star rating is actually the highest you can get. So we're really proud of it. We built the restaurant around it, and our product is a reflection of that. And one of my concerns with everything that's happened is in the past decade, there's been this huge movement towards not using single-use throwaway plastic items. And the industry and all industries have come so far in achieving, you know, they might be little goals, but they're going to be part of something bigger. And then now what we're seeing, instead of people saying use reusable coffee cups, don't use single-use packaging, it's let's use single-use packaging because it's safer and you can throw it away. We have to work with that. So all our packaging is 100% compostable in the restaurant. Then moving on with the meal kits, it's not, but it's as compostable as we can make it. So our box is compostable. Some of the items in the box are compostable. And what I'm hoping comes out of this, if there's any sort of positive for the industry, is that there's a more focus on manufacturers to create single-use compostable items. So like this cup, for example, is actually made from cornstarch, so it's completely compostable. And to have that more accessible, because restaurants are going to struggle and they're not going to be able to afford to maybe invest in compostable packaging if they don't already. And we need for the earth's sake and for the environment, to make it more accessible for restaurants and make it the norm. Just in terms of the brand, how we kept, our brand, I suppose, present in the box, we did up, sure if you can see that, the leaflet we had inside was just kind of explaining in a note for me, how to cook the burgers, the allergens, all the required legal information. And then on our packaging as well, it's just what's compostable, what's recyclable, and how to manage that at home. Because even if you put compostable items in a box, when you send them to people's houses, they might not know what that means. They might not have a compost bin. So it's important for us as well. And then just overall, keeping the brand present was to give, I suppose, certainty in a time of uncertainty to our guests, and to just make them aware that anything that we do, be it very quickly and in uncertain times, we'll still do it the right way, which is exactly what we're trying to do now with the remodeling of the restaurant, removing all the furniture, click and collect only, and just not having groups of people lining up outside.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Grania. That's fantastic. I can see we're getting lots of questions coming in. Some of the questions are kind of directed at specific panelists. So if any of you do, any of the panelists, while you're not speaking, if you do want to look through the questions, you can actually answer by text by replying there. And if there's a question directed at you that you want to answer. But I see there are a couple of questions that are directed at Kevin, so we'll try and cover those as we go over to Kevin Arundel in the Chop House in Dublin. Hi Kevin. And yeah, you might just briefly take us through the model that you rolled out. Don't forget to unmute your microphone so we can hear you. And yeah, particularly I suppose in terms of like the menu offerings you decided to go for, and what has worked well. And then there's some people who are interested in hearing how you find kind of online versus telephone orders.
Yeah, I'll come to the online a little bit after, because I learned this quickly as I was going along. I mean, 72 hours into lockdown. Okay, what are we going to do? Got to feed the wife and kids, look after the family, all my staff. So I sat in a dark room and said, let's write a menu. Very simple. Now I'm going to tell people I'm open. And I put it up on every social media platform, printed menus, put them all around, really bad, stickers on the windows of the Chop House. Then we finally upgraded to QR codes, which I thought was really cool. But most people don't know what QR codes are, so I learned that message. Then I was handling all the phone calls, taking the Visa card payments, picking the time for people to get pick up or collection, then running in, cook the dishes of the 6 or 8 menu items at the start, put it in the bag and put it over the railing. So that's where It's Untouchable came from. So I was handing the bag over the railing till 2 weeks of this, nearly a mental breakdown, as you can imagine. I found a company who created me a beautiful software platform. So I don't talk to, I love your customers. I don't talk to any customer now. If someone happens to ring up the restaurant, I'll immediately say, I will send you the link to the Untouchable website. It's all there. It's like an Amazon platform. You can click and paste. It will only let you pick a 5-minute slot difference. You book. It was very confusing at the start for customers. They bring me in the middle of service. I want to book 2 steaks at 6 o'clock. I go, no, go back 5 minutes or forward 10 minutes. The machine will let you book your slot. 6 is gone. And it was kind of frightening. And now we're 6, 7, 8 weeks in. People really understand that they're getting the 5 o'clock slot and they're getting whatever. And we've added more and more things. We've got smarter of what we've done. So I would be saying to anybody looking at doing the takeaway, if they can, get a software company to write you your menu with the packaging for the customer, because it's so easy. And then your compliance is good. I have one boy in the kitchen with me today and nobody else in the building. Then Thursday we roll out, I have one girl handing bags out. That's how low we've gone down to. And
yeah, few people have asked that question, Kevin, about how you've managed social distancing, in particular in the kitchen.
Well, it's me and one guy called a lovely young man. He's in since 2 o'clock. He's in there for 3 or 4 hours getting set up. We go at 5 tonight, and we don't really open live until Thursday, but our platform is open. We have some clients, some local corporate companies who are using us, so the platform is open for everybody, but we don't advertise it till Thursday. And from Thursday, I have a girl who just literally, her gloves on, she's at the railing, you get your time, she hands the bag over the railing, completely done.
So your customers literally don't come into the building?
No, not at all. We've had the door open a couple of times by accident and they've wandered in, we've had to go, oh no, please go out, because the door might be open by an accident. We say, no, please don't come in. Please go back outside the railing. We'll put it in the boot of your car. I don't mind. You know, but definitely for anybody, the online, if they can do it, like Ronnie was saying, and Fergus, it's brilliant. No more phone calls. I was doing the phone calls, take the credit card payment, going in cooking, whereas the website, people can run a very seamless, and also, if I run out of fish on a Friday night, I can hide it on the menu. With one click of a button on the app, I can take it off. Like 3 weeks ago, burgers were gone at 6:30. I closed them. I said to my boy, watch the phone ring. In came the phone call. I can't find burgers on the website. Yeah, they're sold out, but the beef bourguignon is there. The crab linguine is there. There's just no burgers left. So the app is built, I can hide them. So you can control your food costing as well. So I bought in last weekend 6 lobsters. They were gone in 1 hour. 5 black sole, they were gone the next day. And once they're gone, I closed the app. So there's a lot of little tricks like that I've had to learn on my own very quickly. It's
a steep learning curve for sure. And are alcohol sales an important component to what you're doing as well, or?
Brutal. There's too many off licenses selling alcohol, as we all know. Every shop sells alcohol. I mean, I put on some more premium ones 2 weeks ago because some of my customers asked me for more premium ones, obviously discounted from the restaurant price. They're selling now, like Whispering Angel will sell because it's for sale in the big high-end supermarket off licenses. I'm selling it for the same price as them. So it's a throwaway purchase for the person buying the crab linguine, and a steak will push the button for a Whispering Angel. They won't push the button for a bottle of Pinot Grigio because they can buy that in the off license. So another learning curve on that one from me.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much, Kevin. And again, we'll come back to Kevin again during the Q&A. And now we're going to speak with Clement Pavy. Clement's the head development chef with Musgrave Marketplace. Clement, you deal with a huge range of customers, I suppose, across lots of different businesses, and lots of your customers, obviously, over the past 2 months have either tried to stay open or reopen, and have had to look at kind of quite dramatically changing their business models. What have you found are the biggest challenges they've been facing?
Hi, good afternoon, Ruth. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, I work with many type of restaurants from the typical or traditional Asian or cheap shop to cafes, bistros, and even fine dining. So really an extensive array of customers. One of the biggest challenge was regarding the menu, but the angle that was approached was how to sustain a very, very large menu when they wanted to sustain the social distancing in the kitchen. So how could they actually, could they actually work in a kitchen environment with keeping the social distancing? So one of the big things that had to be done was to reduce the size of the menu. So like one person could actually do the mise en place for the restaurant. So it was maybe from a 25 item menu to go down to 10 item menu, with 5 starters and 5 main course. But also, like, I mean, to time segregate the kitchen mise en place. So to maybe allow one person to come in the morning and one person to come in the afternoon. So like this, there was no cross contamination, or no cross of people. So that was one of the big learning. It was really how to reduce the menu and how to adapt to the menu, and also maybe to introduce some products. So like, I mean, to make everything from scratch, fantastic, and we're all for it. But sometimes as well, maybe there was a time to introduce maybe a ready-made relish for some instance. So it was about choosing the battles you were going to fight to be able to reopen the restaurant or to change the menu. Yeah.
Yeah, and another area that we spoke with Grania there about is packaging. Like, obviously, people who are in the kind of quote-unquote traditional restaurant space might never have offered takeaway. So that's something that they'd be, maybe for the first time, they'd be having to look at packaging and ordering packaging.
Yeah, definitely. And as I said, like, I mean, working with takeaways or traditional takeaways, like, I mean, we had what Grania described as the one-time plastic going in the bin, and a lot of the restaurants who basically are serving restaurant quality or restaurant grade type of food wanted to premiumize or to do something different, not just to use a plastic container of some type. So we developed quite a range of fully compostable and a range of more crafty kind of packaging. And that was one of the work we've done a lot with our customers, who was actually to engage with them directly. So we engage with them through WhatsApp, through any type of means to actually show the pictures, take the pictures of the packaging and show the packaging that was available to them, so they could choose it and then order it from us.
And actually, I see we've had quite a few questions coming in and quite a few questions voted for that have been asking about whether restaurants have found it viable to roll out these models and use platforms like Just Eat and Deliveroo, and whether they feel that that's going to be feasible on an ongoing basis to pay the fees and all of that. And I know that's something that you also have worked with people on that, most of your customers who weren't in this space traditionally obviously didn't have an online sales platform in place. So this is something that they needed to get up and running.
Yes, definitely. So, like, I mean, there was those two aspects there, but the aspect of the social, the aspect of the online and the platform to get your food online and to get your food to your customers. Musgrave is just after launching an app there called Takeout, and you'll find it on takeout.ie. It's a website. It's a website for the customers to actually get. To get their menus directly on the website and get the customers to order directly from their website. So that's something I'm pretty sure you might be able to put the link at the end of the conversation there, where people can actually go and have a look at the website. There is a very, very simple video that explains everything, and much better than I would actually.
Okay, so yeah, Takeout by Musgrave Marketplace.ie, and people can register their interest there, and it's basically a platform that businesses can use, that's ready to go basically to put their menus online and set up takeaway without the costs. Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Clement. So we're going to kind of move on to the Q&A part of the webinar, and as you said, there's lots of questions coming in, and we'll only have time for a few of them, but a lot of them are similar, and we'll kind of group them a bit. So I suppose, and it's one of the things that we definitely wanted to speak about, there's lots of questions around the profitability of this, and I suppose I'll go back to Fergus first on this one. I mean, street front establishments, restaurants and hotels have quite different overheads to maybe places, smaller premises that would be set up to, intentionally to kind of do takeaway. Do these models stand up financially for establishments like yours? And we'll have to get you to unmute your microphone, Fergus. And I suppose a couple of people have mentioned, obviously there's the wage subsidies at the moment as well. So I'm just wondering how viable you feel these models would be without that and going forward.
Yeah, time will tell. Before the wage subsidy kicked in, we already knew we had a viable model. And you got to imagine as well, this is a hotel that I'm paying rent on, not just a restaurant. So we have massive overheads that we can't get away from. And in order for this to work, we would have to have been able to cover those. So even before the wage subsidy kicked in, we were going in the right direction. We're 7 weeks into it. We're still looking for patrons. It's hard. I mean, 1 week we may have done better than the week prior. There isn't a patron yet, but we're making it work. It is financially viable for us at the moment. When the hotel opens, that's my biggest concern, because that's when there's going to be massive overheads that I cannot control as well as I can control now. When we reopen, we number one, back to it again. We have to protect our staff. This has to be the safest environment for our staff to work in. And that confidence then is spread from the staff to our guests that are coming in. They have to see it as a very, very safe environment. But yet we have to juggle that, the ambience that one is trying to create within a restaurant in now a very safe environment. So we have plans for that. We've worked a hell of a lot over the last few weeks looking at different models. A lot of information is coming from the States and restaurants over there and Italy and so forth. And there's some wonderful ideas out there. The templates are there, and it's really adapting it to your business. So I will never go down the route of delivering, because I fight with my team to save 2% on food costs every month, 1%, 2%. To actually consider giving away 5% and more to a delivery company now just makes no sense whatsoever. So that's certainly when it does not become financially viable. And I can't see how it could be for any restaurant. I struggle with the maths as to restaurants now opening, doing takeouts, and handing over a percentage of that to a delivery company. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I would encourage restaurants not to go into price wars. I've seen many establishments take our menu, our copy from the website, and put it up as their operation. And the only change they would make would drop the price by €1 on each dish. I mean, it's insane. So if that's the road that's the restaurant industry is going to go down over the next 6 months, there'll be a lot of failures. You know, everyone needs to find what it is that they're good at themselves, and work on that, and not copy each other, and not compete on price. That it's becoming evident already in the marketplace here in Galway. And you know, if the restaurant industry is going to be a new industry, it needs to have a reset button now, and this is it, where we are not struggling with the margins that we've always struggled with prior on a global level. This is something where, you know, it should be a shake-up for all of us within the industry, the whole world, as to say, we're not going to accept these margins anymore. We're going to be able to pay our staff better. Why should the people who work in this industry be some of the lowest paid in the industry worldwide? It's just not right. So, you know, there's a lot of consideration to be made, and it's only when everybody realizes this together uniformly globally, not just in Ireland, that we'll see a change. But yeah, margins are still tight, and it's always going to be about looking at the books every single day. We do that. I mean, but we started off with 10 people, 10 jobs protected. We're up to 15 now, so it's an achievement. Alcohol, Kevin, you were talking about. Yeah, we sell a lot of wine. We sell a hell of a lot of cocktails. So these are going all over the country. Our brown bag cocktails. This now will become another element of the 12 from here on. They'll be in every guest mini bar when people come back to us. The takeout model, it'll still continue. We've already decided how that will operate once the restaurant opens, but it's going to be our new revenue stream. There's no getting away from it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Fergus. Yeah, and it's really interesting, I suppose, the different revenue streams now, as you said, in addition to your takeaway food menu, you've done your cocktail packs and even spa at home packs. So it's a real kind of taste of what the 12 does, and that will continue as parts. That's brilliant. Yeah. Kevin, a few people, again, I suppose, asking about the financial model. I don't know whether people asking what your GP is, without taking into account the costs of Just Eat delivery, that kind of thing. But you haven't gone that route either. You've stayed away from delivery. I don't know if you want to talk about.
You couldn't justify 25-30% to Deliveroo, so I might as well just stay at home. No, we've just gone straight up. We're a premium brand. We're a chop house. We're an expensive steakhouse in an old pub. I've always had fun doing that, cooking really, really good food. And what I bought 10 years ago was a shitty old pub. And people liked the brand. They came in, they're having scallops in the dump of a pub. And it shocked them so much. And we shocked them from day one. And now they'll stay with me if I will not drop. And the biggest thing I learned, and probably all of us are learning, is how to get my product in the box, looking to your house as good, similar to what I do. I have a customer coming tonight at 7 o'clock for 2 black sole. I texted him last week, I said, Dermot, lovely man, they're expensive again, I don't care. He had them last Friday, and every Friday night he has 2 black sole for himself and his wife. It's cheaper than sitting in the restaurant, but it's still expensive, but I have to produce it absolutely perfect in boxing for him to sit down at home. And people will stay with you if you stick to your core values and not cut corners. And if you go down to Deliveroo, I know one restaurateur, God love him, he's doing Deliveroo and he's giving like 30% of his not so big turnover, because he doesn't know how to change quickly. And like, you might as well just be at home. There's no value. I mean,
sorry for interrupting. So people asking there as well, is takeaway as busy now as it has been over the past few weeks, or have things slowed a little bit?
Very funny. We started off in the nightmare scenario. We built, got a good platform. I've got a few nice corporate clients who like using me now for their teams, security teams and all that. And it went up and up, and it dipped a little bit mid last week because loads of other places have opened up now doing for customers other options. but we worked really hard, on Thursday, Friday, on telling people we're still here, we're still doing it. And we've actually flatlined quite nicely now, because people on my web system, I can see I have 72% repeat customers. So the analytics on the software program will show me exactly who's coming back to me, those who want to follow me and be given, I can then next month send them out packages and loyalty programs, or they can deny and not accept it. But all that stuff is possible as opposed to a phone call. Because you're talking to little Mary and she wants to talk to you for a while, and you're there in the kitchen busy, and you want to be cooking. So
Brilliant.
Platforms need.
Thanks, Kevin. Johnny, I'll come to you. There's someone asking specifically whether you intend to keep up doing the on-post boxes once you are able to reopen, and also people asking about what online platform people are using. But I think all the businesses here kind of developed their own. I know you did anyway.
Yeah, well, I used a software called WordPress, and there's a plugin then for that called WooCommerce, and it's mostly free. But then if you want to do some kind of premium features, you just buy little bits of software and add them into it. So I've done a few of them, but there's loads of options out there. There's loads of free options out there. There's loads. I have a background in web development, so I can do a lot of that stuff. But there's loads that it's not much more complicated than doing up a document in Word. Really, you're just copying and pasting text and links and things.
So in terms of your future business mix, do you see yourself continuing with what you're doing at the moment, and how do you plan to evolve things? And I suppose also to talk a bit about the profitability of these kind of models as well.
Yeah, well, profitability, it's kind of hard to tell at the moment. I think it definitely is profitable, but we've spent so much of the last few months paying off like other bills that, like say it's taken us 2 months to pay off some suppliers, which we would have normally paid off by the end of March because the level is so much lower. But since we've gotten that cleared off, it's definitely working. Like the expenses are less, the profits are less, but there's still profit there. For the future, I think this is going to be our model for a while. We're looking to open up a kind of retail space where we can do more takeaway type of food, like coffee and salads and things like that. But we'll continue with the online sales and with the postal orders. We've had lots of interest on that. We've had people saying they want to get them for August and September, and I don't think people are going to be rushing back to visit family or friends, or not a huge wide group of people for quite a while. So yeah, I think it's our future.
Brilliant. Thanks, Johnny. And Grania, there's a few people have been asking about whether people consulted with their EHOs, and I know that's something that you talked about specifically, so you might kind of take us through how that worked, because some people said our EHOs doing consultations over Zoom, and then people wondering who you worked with as a delivery partner outside Dublin. And if I can throw in a third element for you, a lot of people asking about social distancing, for staff and in the kitchen, and whether you're using masks and things like that. So you might tell us what your experience is.
Yeah, so on the EHO, since we've opened, we've had an EHO consultant, so she doesn't work for the EHO, but she's a HACCP consultant, and she helped us set up our Celsius system and the food monitoring system, and then also give us our guidelines for the restaurant. The EHO they're still very much active, and if not more so now. They can't physically come into restaurants yet. I'm not sure, maybe they can now. But at the time, what it was is that we went through our consultant and asked her to work directly with our EHO, the officer specific to our area, and find out exactly what we would need to get her approval to do the meal kit boxes, and we got all that done. So she didn't actually have to come into the restaurant. I think someone was saying, did you meet over Zoom? No. But we just had direct contact with our consultant who worked with the EHO for us, and then we linked up with them and we had all the information that she needed from us to get the go ahead. We used Cube Logistics for the delivery, and we found we looked into numerous different partners, and we had to get the ones that we thought fitted best with our ethos and could kind of represent our brand the best when delivering the product to the customers. And then on the social distancing, the World Health Organization recommends 1 meter distance between workers in the kitchen or in any space. But this is actually reduced if all the workers in the restaurant are wearing PPE. So we have face masks, gloves, and any other protective gear. That's the WHO guidelines. So that's not the mandatory. In Fujo, we created a policy about what our specific guidelines are. So by reducing the capacity in the restaurant and even click and collect, we've reduced the staff members that we need as well. And also by doing only click and collect and not physically bringing the food out to guests, we've reduced the numbers of people that we need front of house. And so in the kitchen, we've redesigned it. I'm actually getting it at the moment. You can probably hear like drills and stuff in the background, but getting the kitchen refitted a bit, getting the front room refitted a bit, and the kitchen is specifically to redesign the flow of how service works. So keeping the standards of food, but obviously reducing the capacity and reducing the people required to do it. And our team members are wearing face masks and gloves at all times when they're in the restaurant, especially in the kitchen.
Thanks a million, Grania. So we're rapidly coming to the end of our time, believe it or not. Sorry, we can't get to any more questions. I hope we've kind of touched on most of the things that people have been asking about. Again, if any of the panelists want to directly reply to any of the queries there with a quick text reply, that would be super if you get a minute. So to wrap up, I was just going to ask each of you, and I'll start with Fergus and go in the same order as earlier. Just I suppose if you've got a really quick kind of in 30 seconds important piece of advice or final kind of comment, I suppose, that you'd like to share with other businesses that are looking at going into this space, what would that be? Oh, sorry, Fergus, you'll have to unmute your mic. Now you've only got 10 seconds. No, I'm only joking. Go on.
Yeah, cool. I guess know your brand. Know what it is that you're good at. Don't copy somebody else. Find out what it is you're good at, what you can actually do. And even if it's just a burger, one burger, but make it the best burger around. You know, that's it. Don't try to be all things to everyone. Yeah, and
don't all do burgers.
One important thing. We took a pledge at the start. I don't think we've touched on this here today, but we all took a pledge at the start that every one of us will social distance at home. A lot of us have families, a lot of us have kids, so that carried through to our kids as well. In order for this to work, we had to be sure that every day when we come to work, that one of us was not going to pass it on to somebody else. And that's going to be the hardest thing to get through over the next few months when restaurants reopen. It has to be consideration.
Yeah, thanks, Fergus. I'm glad that you brought that in, because we did mean to touch on that earlier, and I think that's huge. I mean, the communication with your team and the buy-in from everyone that everyone needs to do their bit to keep everyone else safe is massive, because otherwise the whole thing can fall apart. Johnny, I'll go on to you for a quick final word from you.
Yeah, well, I suppose what we've really tried to focus on is to kind of have a really safe baseline of what we can do, and not go too far beyond that too quickly and just wait and see what happens, because there's so many unknowns out there. Like this date of the 29th of June that's being talked about, that's not even definite yet whether that's going to happen. If it does happen, there's a chance the phases could roll back if the numbers go too high. So there's so many things out of control. So we've kind of just come up with this bulletproof business model that no matter what happens, we can always go back to this level, and we're kind of take baby steps then to move on and add new features to that. But worst comes to worst, we can continue doing that and kind of, you know, keep the fridges on. That's our kind of aim.
Brilliant, thanks. Grania.
I would say the most important thing is to have a list of the priorities and what is most important. You know, the safety of your guests and your staff being number one, and build your plan around that, and also build it for longevity, because the 29th, like, it's not all restaurants will be able to welcome people back in. And I know in Bujo that the plan we're doing at the moment is, you know, keeping in mind that we probably won't have people sitting in the restaurant for quite some time. You need to build your plan around that thought instead of, you know, hoping that you're just going to have a full restaurant again soon. Also being able to adapt. I mean, we're blessed as an industry that we are incredibly adaptable, creative, and two really incredible examples of this are, one is Leah Restaurant, head chef Damien Gray in Dublin. I got their meal kit last week and it was like eating a Michelin star meal in my home. And they are a 1-star restaurant and they're doing these to-go kits and they've done it really well. Kind of created it as a separate entity to their restaurant, so they still have Leah and then Leah to go. And then the other really extreme version of this is Noma Restaurant, which is on numerous occasions been named the best restaurant in the world. 2 Michelin stars. Rene Redzepi is now selling burgers in Noma, which is mental. But it's like one burger and then one vegan burger. And they've completely, you know, they've thrown out the Michelin guide for the moment just to get through it. They've completely adapted. And it's, you know, obviously with their team in mind, so that when they do reopen, and when it's safe to reopen, they can do what they did before again. So just being creative, adaptive, and then also, you know, just surrounding yourself with positive people, positive team members who, you know, create, you know, more solutions than they do problems would definitely be the key.
Brilliant, Grania. Thank you so much. And absolutely, I think adaptability and flexibility are really key words. And thankfully, this is an industry that's really agile and, you know, really quick to adapt and to find solutions. I think that's the key thing. Really solutions focused people. Kevin, have you got something sage to share with us?
Oh, it's unlike me to have something to say. Just to finish off very short. People follow a brand in any industry, from cars to whatever. I've had to, like all of us, had to restart 7.5 weeks ago and restart myself, which in some ways is not a bad thing. And now when my team, please God, start coming back from the start of June, we'll be ready to rebuild with the Untouchables going to stay, the Click and Collect's going to stay, and the kitchen team will have to get used to that as part of their kitchen order. But we'll build a system around where premium times you won't be able to get the Click and Collect. It'll be the restaurant sit down, hopefully, with maybe 50 seats left in the building from 140. And that's what we have to do. But I found that it's actually been testing me more than I have done for a long time in this horrible time. And hopefully we'll all have a little giggle at the other side, you know, because it's not been fun for anybody. And the social distancing is the biggest one. And we've got signs up since yesterday. And one door's gonna be coming in, one door's gonna be going out. The upstairs is gonna become more restaurant than function room, because that's just the way. There's no more function room for, I'd say, till next year. I won't have a function up there, so it'll be a staircase. I'm lucky I have 2 staircases. One staircase will be up, one staircase will be down, allocated times. So there's a lot of legwork, but we can do it. Like drawing saying, we're adaptable. We've no choice.
Thanks, Kevin. Kevin, I'll let you have the last word on, I suppose, advice or comment for people.
I think the situation has brought everybody, and we can see all the challenges, but I think, and we've heard that for the past hour, it's bringing a lot of opportunities as well. And, you know, it's the creativity and the adaptability of the profession of the food service industry is just massive. And, you know, it's pretty fantastic to see what's happening as well.
Brilliant, thank you, Clement. So that's a great positive note for us to end on. We're gone slightly over time, so apologies for that. Thank you for the huge interest. We had 259 people join us live for the full webinar. So thank you to everyone who joined us. But a huge thank you to our panelists for taking the time out, and especially for being willing to share their experience with others. Hopefully we'll be able to bring you more webinars like this in the future, so do send your feedback and let us know what you're interested in hearing about. We will send out the link to everyone who was registered with the recording. We'll include any relevant follow-up links. That link again for the platform that Musgrave Marketplace are making available to businesses is takeout by musgravemarketplace.ie, but we will include that in the email. If you're a chef and you're not signed up to Chef Network yet, you can sign up at chefnetwork.ie to be part of the Chef Network community. It's free. And if you're not a chef, you can also go to chefnetwork.ie and join our mailing list, so you find out about any other events like this that we're doing. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining us today, and bye for now.
Thank you.